Hello and welcome to Paint by Blunders. Nurgle is on the table today, and more specifically Murghoth the Cleaver. Now this was my favourite grotesque model out of the Dark Water box, and honestly he's been on my table for ages and I've really wanted to get this tutorial out. I appreciate I'm very late to the party with this one, but I really enjoyed painting the model and I really wanted to show how I did it because I think there's a few useful things that hopefully some of you might enjoy. Let's get to it. So this is our primed mini. All I've done is airbrush a Xenathil highlight over the top of this using black and then white over the top. Now for the first step, we're going to be using Orgoth bronze from P3 and we're going to tackle all of the armour, and we're just going to apply 2 thin coats over the top of all of the armour. And once you are suitably happy that the armour is covered, I'm going to be using Elysian green and Straken green from Warhammer Paint or Cell Colour, and I'm going to be applying this all over that bronze using a sponge essentially and just dabbing it all over and just constantly moving between the 2 colours to make it a mottled green. Now you can also use it like a dry brush to catch some of the edges, and if there is too much green you can always dip back into that Orgoth bronze again with a sponge and just add some chipping, and hopefully you can see some of that bronze showing through the green. Next up we're going to wash the armour using Ratling Grime, Camo Shade and Lamium Medium in equal parts. Now with washes and contrasts I always like to water them down or thin them down, just because if it's too strong I can't go back unless I quickly wick it away, whereas if it's too subtle I can just reinforce it with a second coat. And once that's dry, I'm coming back in with Ratling Grime straight out the pot. And I'm using that sponge again, and I'm just stippling on areas that I want to be a little bit more grimy, and I want to sort of have a bit of a dirt build up. There are like elements of rust and decay in the armour, so I'm making sure I'm hitting them. Also, I'm making sure that if I want to add like dirt streaks to the armour, when I've dabbed it, I'm dragging it downwards as if like, you know, rain and all that is pulling that dirt downwards on the armour. Also, don't worry too much. If you can't get to it with a sponge, I would come straight in, like I have done, with a brush or like a pin brush, just to pick out those creases in the armour where it would, you know, sort of naturally build up. I'm not solely relying on a sponge to randomly dab it. It's the erraticness of the sponge that I love, but also combined with the control of a brush. As always, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you are new to these parts, do consider liking, subscribing and all of that stuff, because it is so helpful for me and it does help the channel grow and it helps me put out more videos like this for you guys. And there we have it, looking pretty damn cool. So we're going to move on to Pig Iron next from P3, and we're going to do the chainmail and the silvery bits on the model. There isn't actually that many, it's the weapon and essentially a bit of chainmail. But it's a small detail that I wanted to lock in before progressing with the green armour a bit more. So with that done, I'm going to move on to a bit of weathering and rust on the armour. I'm going to be using Green Stuff World's Yellow Oxide. I have such a love-hate with this product. You may have seen that I did a couple of reviews on it. I absolutely love it. I think it's so easy to use and so good, but it does have some pretty strong caveats that you have to be aware of when using it. The major one being you have to seal it. It is reactivated by water and can be an absolute nightmare. And I mean, reactivates days later. It is a nightmare for that. I have passed on my notes to Green Stuff World about this, but it is such a fantastic product and really easy to use. So if you don't mind putting on a bit of matte varnish over the top after using this, by all means use it because it is fantastic. Or you could use something like Dirty Down Rust. That also has a caveat of you do need to seal it. It says semi-permanent. A lot of people, you know, make that mistake, and in months to come you will notice it becomes very tacky and will start to pull away. Most people who tell you that product is amazing will not tell you that part because it's, you know, a review instantly. I've been using it for years. It is absolutely semi-permanent. And I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. These paints are fantastic, hence why I'm using them. I think they are well worth having on your hobby desk. But there is that, just that little bit of information that you don't often hear. But anyway, let's crack on. I've used this rust to go round the edges of all the sort of little motifs and such in the armour, like the fly, etc., just to sort of bring it out because I don't want it to get too lost in a sea of green. I'm also looking at all the creases in the armour and also the decay that is already sculpted into the armour as well. And look at that, this glorious little beastie. Now we should start looking at his skin, really. And we're going to be using a green grey from AK Interactive as our base. 2 thin coats of this, you may be able to get away with 1, but I'm going to be doing 2. Now, if you've seen some of my videos on the channel before, whenever I do big monsters or big creatures, I always say that I like a really light base for my skin because it's just the way I've always done it. And you'll see why hopefully in this video. And if you haven't seen the Bio Titan video that I did with Merlin's Miniatures, I highly recommend checking out part 1 where I go into a bit more detail over why I do my skin like this. And with the skin base coated, we're going to move on to the next step, and it can get a little bit messy. So I'm going to be using some masking putty for this. You could use masking fluid, or you could just be very careful. I'm going to be using an airbrush, but I'm also going to tell you how you can do it without an airbrush. It is not necessary to use one at all. But these little tools used for clay sculpting, or if you use any sort of green stuff, etc., are so handy for making sure this is tucked in nicely so that we can get to all of the skin without hitting the armor. So once our model has the correct PPE on, we're going to be using an old brush. You can use an airbrush, you can even use a toothbrush for this, but you want a slightly finer bristle. And we're going to be using a variety of colors to spatter onto the skin to recreate a sort of more natural, real skin tone. Now I'll write a list of all the paints that I did for this at the bottom, just to save you some insanity for me constantly changing. And also my camera has an absolute fit at the fact that my hand is doing all this movement and it doesn't want to focus. Now I'm hoping you can see the effect it has, and yeah, just have fun with it. If you've never done this before, have a go, it's great fun. After that, we're moving on to the next stage, and first and foremost, let me apologise for having this clip completely out of focus. I was just too excited to start cracking on with the skin, but essentially I'm using Carroburg Crimson to go into all the recesses and the fingers, etc., where I want to add a sort of bit of depth and where I think the skin might be a bit sore. Once that was done, I came in with Reikland Flesh Tone, and I'm again picking out those muscles and sort of deepest parts of the model to try and reinforce the shadows between light and dark. This is one of the reasons why I like doing my flesh tone like this, because I like making it really light and then coming in with my washes and glazes, etc., and just, you know, really washing it down. And like an absolute savage, I'm using it straight from the pot. Next up, I'm using that green grey again, which was our base tone, and I've probably thinned this down way more, probably in the realm of 70-30, because I want it to be a little bit more transparent to show that sort of spatter underneath, but also blend in the washes and the spatter itself to make it look more natural. And I'm very much pulsing the trigger and making sure that I'm spraying at an angle downwards, because I want it to sort of, you know, come down almost like a Xenathil highlight. Apologies again for the terrible focus, but now hopefully you can see it's starting to look really cool and a lot more natural. So with that done, we're going to take off that putty now, and we're going to use that flesh tone 50% with medium, and we're going to apply a coat all over the skin. And we're calling the skin done after that, apart from that sort of scar / branding, but we'll get to that later. So we're just going to do an easy win now, and we're going to use Cygor brown for the weapon handle and the tiny little joints at the top of the silverware. So if you've been neat with your paint job, you can probably just apply this straight away, but I have not. I've been a little bit slapdash. So I'm going to use Great Hall Grey, and I'm going to dry brush that over the weapon wraps before I apply this Cygor brown. As always, I'm adding a little bit of medium, 70-30 in favour of the brown. An optional step here, you can use that Cygor brown watered down just to mottle and dab in some shadow into that flesh where it meets the armour, as if that big grotesque bit of flesh has been rubbing against it and picking up all that dirt and grime. And while I was in the mood for doing some stippling, I came back in with that Elysian green and just stippled in where the light might hit, just to add again some more contrast and to add a bit of shape. After that, I wanted to tackle the loincloth, and to start with, we're using Screamer Pink from Games Workshop as our base. Once that's done, we're pulling out the trusty Rakarth flesh. I still think this is the best colour around. I absolutely adore it, to do the stag horns on the helmet. Also, while you've got the Rakarth flesh on the brush, you can use it to do a slight edge highlight on that Cygor brown weapon handle to make it look like some really worn straps. Onto the branding next, and I'm going to be using Carroburg Crimson to do the main sort of scar of the brand, and then I'm going to come in with that flesh tone and just sort of feather in the outer edges to make it look like there's some scar tissue or corruption in that skin that hopefully should contrast quite nicely against the pale arm. Once I've feathered that in, I'm going to come back in with Pink Flesh from AK Interactive, 50/50 with medium, to really add that final touch and just basically do a glaze over the whole thing just to make it look really sore. So we're going back to the silver details now, and you might be thinking, why didn't I do these earlier? And that's because at this stage I'm going to use the Ratling Grime for the stag horns, the silver details, and also the Screamer Pink. At this stage we're basically going to just be highlighting up what we've done because we're almost there, obviously apart from the axe head, but we'll get to that. So I'm using the original Rakarth flesh just to edge highlight the stag horns. Next up, for that Screamer Pink for his little skirty bits, if you want to push this further you could mix in a tiny amount of that Rakarth flesh just to make it a tone lighter. Next up, we're going to tackle that axe head. Pink Horror is going to be our main colour we want to achieve, but due to the fact it doesn't have the best coverage, I'm going to use a thin coat of Screamer Pink just as a base. After that, for the Nurgle symbol on the axe, we're going to be using Retributor Armour. Now at this stage we're coming back in with, yes, you guessed it, Ratling Grime, again, thinned down 50/50. This just acts as a really good uniform wash, and if you've seen any of my videos before, I love a uniform wash to sort of tie a piece together. I think it just makes it, you know, really grounded in the same environment. Once that Ratling Grime is dry, I'm going to come back in with that Pink Horror and just highlight over the highest parts of the sort of tentacly corruption marks over the axe head, and we're going to do one more thing to the axe head after that, and that's use Radiant Platinum from P3 and just edge highlight some of those silver edges. And while we've got that silver out, we're going to use it to highlight some of the chainmail on the model as well, and you can also use it if you wanted to add some sort of fresh scratches to the edge of the green armor as well. After that, we're going to be looking at the base next, and I love the lore side of it where it's always Nurgle fighting over Realm Gate control and normally against Sylvaneth, and there's lots of battles there against like the Decay versus Life. So I'm going to give it like a once was a forest or greenery that is now Decayed. And to do that, I'm just going to paint the base with a dark brown, apply a dark brown wash over the top of it to give it a bit more depth, and then use some pigment powders to really amplify this base before putting on a few little grass tufts to show a little bit of life that's still popping through the ground. And with that done, I'm calling him done. Now, I had a lot of fun painting this model up, and I do hope there was a few tips or tricks or techniques or something that inspire you to paint something similar or to use it in some way and add your own spin. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I'm very late to the party in getting this video out, so if you could like, share, or do any of those things, it would mean the world to me because you have no idea just how helpful that is. Once again, thank you so much for checking out this video, and I'll see you on the next one.